to the Book Club Lounge, where we delve deep into the stories that captivate us. Today, I'm thrilled to guide you through a story that's both gripping and unsettling. It's one of those tales that keeps you guessing at every turn, wondering who can truly be trusted. But before we dive in, just a little note of caution. You know, this episode does contain spoilers, so if you haven't yet read Freida McFadden's psychological thriller, The Teacher, maybe consider pausing here and coming back after you've had the chance to finish. I wouldn't want to spoil all the twists for you. There are a lot. Now, for those of you sticking around, The Teacher unfolds its story in the seemingly quiet halls of Caseham High School. At its heart, it's about Eve, a math teacher whose life seems perfect, and Addie, a student who's notorious for her role in past scandals. Together, their lives collide in a way that's, well, let's just say, anything but predictable. If you're enjoying our deep dives into literature, please take a moment to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Oh, and if you're intrigued and want to grab your own copy of The Teacher, we've included an affiliate link in the description below. Your support there helps us keep bringing you these discussions. Caseham High, on the surface, seems like just another high school, doesn't it? Picture the long hallways, the buzz of high school energy, and a tight-knit faculty. But dig just a little deeper, and you'll find the facade cracking. Eve Bennett, our lead, is a math teacher loved for her logical approach and structured thinking. Yet her personal life? It's, well, a completely different story. Eve's marriage to Nate, the charming and poetic English teacher, has all the makings of a perfect relationship, but beneath the surface, it's devoid of passion. And, honestly, what first struck me was how lonely Eve feels in her own home. It's this kind of loneliness that really jumps off the pages. Now, Eve is nothing if not observant, which makes her suspicions about Nate and his female students all the more unsettling. At Caseham High, the fallout of a recent scandal still lingers. A teacher, Arthur Tuttle, resigned after rumors whispered about a relationship with Addie Severson, a student at the heart of the scandal. And Addie? Let me just say, she's painted as one of those characters that's hard to pin down. Troubled, yes. Ostracized, definitely. But is she trustworthy? That's the bigger question here. There's a cloud of unease around her, and I couldn't shake it while reading. What adds to the tension, though, is how Addie ends up becoming close to Nate, who spots in her a spark for poetry. He encourages her, offers guidance. From the outside, it looks like mentorship. But Eve, on the inside, she feels something deeper is off. And you know, I couldn't help but feel the weight of her unease. It's like her instincts are screaming that something isn't quite right, even if the evidence isn't there. When Eve catches Addie cheating on a math test, she's ready to report her, no hesitation. It's only Nate's intervention, his quiet plea to let it slide, that makes her hold back. And that moment, oh, it cuts right into their marriage. Eve's decision to relent isn't just about the test. It's this big, unspoken compromise. And the doubt? It just keeps growing between them. Eve Bennett, a steady, logical math teacher, someone whose life is built around logic and precision, makes a dramatic departure from her character when she finds herself drawn into an affair. Jay, a shoe salesman, whose charm seems irresistible, offers Eve what her marriage lacks: passion. But you see, this affair isn't just about passion. It's about escape from a marriage that feels hollow, from a husband who's become a stranger, and perhaps from the monotony of her carefully structured life. At the same time, Addie Severson, the troubled student already notorious for a past scandal, is unknowingly weaving herself into this already chaotic tapestry. What struck me most is just how deeply vulnerable Addie is. Her past, a father whose abuse defined her childhood, an accidental death she shared responsibility for alongside Hudson, her former best friend, it's all left its mark on her. And Nate? Nate senses that vulnerability and exploits it, drawing her closer with shared poetry and secret meetups. Is it mentorship, or is it something darker? It's heartbreaking and unsettling to see how Addie clings to Nate. Their connection, which on the surface appears supportive, is anything but. Nate's behavior becomes increasingly concerning, crossing the boundaries of professionalism in ways that only deepen the sense of unease. And Eve, even as she buries herself in her affair with Jay, begins to sense the pieces of the puzzle sliding into place. Now, when Eve discovers the truth, it hits like a storm. A discarded notebook here, a lingering glance there. It's the incriminating details that she wished she could ignore, but can't. It's one thing to have suspicions, but another entirely to confirm them. Eve confronts Nate and, oh, the tension when they finally clash. It feels like every restrained emotion over years of marriage explodes in that moment. What follows takes a violent turn, a turn I could scarcely prepare myself for. Eve, in the course of this altercation, is gravely injured. And amidst the chaos, her fateful confrontation with Addie becomes a pivotal moment in itself. When Addie believes she's killed Eve, it's Nate she turns to for help. But let's pause to reflect. Isn't it odd how Addie remains mostly unaware of Nate's true nature, even here? That dynamic between them, this facade of trust, it's like watching a carefully constructed house of cards teeter on the edge of collapse. It's difficult to say what's more disturbing, the way this web of deceit is spun, or the realization that the characters seem to double down on their worst impulses. And Eve? Well, she's left to grapple with this betrayal and act on survival instincts she might not have even known she had. So, what happens next takes us deeper into these tangled lives. After the violent clash, something remarkable, almost shocking, happens. Eve, against all odds, survives that brutal altercation. But surviving was just the start. What follows is her calculated and determined response. It's with Jay, the enigmatic shoe salesman, that Eve finds an unlikely ally. And here's where McFadden lays down one more surprise for us. Jay's true identity. He's Hudson. Yes, the Hudson who was Addie's inseparable best friend before tragedy struck their young lives. This reveal connects even more pieces of this already intricate puzzle. Together, Eve and Hudson set their sights on Nate. They're no longer just spectators of Nate's deceitful web. They're behind his ultimate unraveling. Using precision and careful planning, they lure Nate into their trap. And then, it all culminates in his demise. I'll admit, that final sequence, reading it, was almost surreal. Nate, the character who seemed untouchable in his manipulations, facing the consequences of his actions. It felt like poetic justice in its sharpest form. But here's what really stood out about this resolution. It wasn't just about retribution for Eve. It was about empowerment. When Eve takes control, when she stops being merely reactive and starts dictating her own narrative, there's power in that. It's messy, yes, but undeniably powerful. For Addie, though, the path forward isn't as clear. Freed from Nate's corrosive influence, she's left staring down the hurt and mistakes that defined her teenage years. And Hudson? Watching him reconnect with Addie, even after all this time, suggests there's hope for her to begin healing. There's hope for her to rebuild. What really lingers, though, are Eve's moments of contemplation after it's all over. She reflects on the choices that led her to this point, the deceptions, the vendettas, the compromises, and while she may have fought her way out of a suffocating situation, it's not without cost. You feel this weight in those lingering scenes, how the past doesn't just leave you, but becomes part of who you are. Now, all of this brings us to some critical questions. What does redemption look like for these characters? Can there really be a clean start after such a dark chapter? Or does the past, no matter how hard we try, always find ways to shadow the future? If there's one thing that defines The Teacher, it's its exploration of the facades people construct and maintain. Each character carries secrets, some born from survival, others from desire. And it's in these secrets that McFadden draws her readers in. First, we have this pervasive theme of trust, or more pointedly, the lack of it. Eve, our protagonist, starts out with a secure life, but quickly realizes that trust is fragile, especially in her marriage to Nate. And Nate? Well, he spins a web of manipulation so seamless that it's hard to know when the lies end and the truth begins. It's this unraveling of trust that sets much of the drama in motion. Then there's deception, which goes hand in hand with trust, doesn't it? From Eve's affair to Nate's secretive behavior to Addie's own role in obscuring parts of her past, deception is everywhere in this story. It forces us as readers to confront how often we, too, take things at face value. Who hasn't hesitated to ask tough questions, fearing what the answers might reveal? Equally captivating is the exploration of power dynamics. McFadden dives headfirst into the murkiness of human relationships, particularly when one person holds power over another. Nate and Addie's dynamic, for instance, is layered with exploitation masked as care. It's uncomfortable, even enraging at times, but it's also disturbingly real. The novel challenges readers to think deeply about where accountability lies when lines are crossed, that gray area where morality and power intersect. And redemption, that's an intriguing thread running through this tale. Eve may have betrayed her marriage vows, yes, but her journey becomes one of regaining control over her life. She refuses to be defined solely by betrayal or victimhood. For Addie, the path to redemption seems less clear. She's left to process years of pain and bad decisions, but there are glimmers of hope, small signs that she might break free from the shadows of her past. It's a messy, imperfect kind of redemption, but isn't that truer to life? These themes, trust, deception, power, and redemption, they're not just confined to the pages of a book. They make us reflect on our own lives, our relationships, and the choices we make. As readers, we're not just passive observers. We're participants, invited to wrestle with the same questions that haunt Eve, Nate, and Addie. So, whether it's the moments of tension or the moments of quiet self-reflection, The Teacher reminds us that no one is just one thing. People are rarely what they seem on the surface, and that opacity, that complexity, is what makes stories like these so compelling. As we wrap up our journey through The Teacher, it's clear why Freida McFadden's work resonates so deeply with her audience. It's not just the twists and suspense, though those are certainly heart-pounding, but the way she probes into the depths of human nature. This story asks tough questions, doesn't it? It challenges us to consider how much we really know about the people around us. Can trust ever be completely restored once it's broken? And how do we reconcile the darker parts of ourselves, those impulses we'd rather not examine? What's remarkable about McFadden's writing is her ability to reflect our own fears, doubts, and yes, even our redemptive potential through characters who are far from perfect. Eve, Addie, Hudson, Nate. Each of them embodies complexities that mirror the moral ambiguities we face in our own lives, albeit under extraordinary circumstances. But while the story takes us into some truly unsettling territory, there's hope buried within those pages. The hope that, even after betrayal, even after mistakes, we can rewrite our ending. Like Eve, maybe we can find the strength to break free, to stand up and take control when it matters most. So, what did you take away from our exploration of The Teacher? Let me know in the comments or reach out on social media. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your theories, and your reflections. Honestly, that's what makes storytelling so impactful, the conversations it sparks and the perspectives it shifts. And if you haven't yet joined our book-loving community, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It's the simplest way to ensure you never miss one of our literary deep dives. And of course, if The Teacher has piqued your interest, be sure to check out the affiliate link in the description to snag your own copy. Your support there helps keep this podcast thriving. With that, my friends, we bring this episode of the Book Club Lounge to a close. Thank you for joining me. It's always a delight to share thoughts and stories with you. Until next time, keep exploring, keep reading, and keep questioning the world around you. Who knows what stories lie just beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered?